Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We got a lot to talk about with the NFL. Just want to start by, reminding everybody what today is. Martin had a dream. Mark Andrews. I don't really know what he has. I don't know what he was thinking about. Whatever dreams he had, apparently they did not come true on Sunday. Baltimore lost that game. And so, I've been thinking a lot, and we talked about these things in part, and I'm going to talk about this more when we get to talking about the unfortunate circumstances that befell America's team on Saturday night. But I've talked about my desire in talking about sports and getting into these things and to leaning more into what we enjoy about this and what feels good about it instead of everything just simply being a proxy or an excuse to have some variety of just argument, right? And so I've been looking a bit at the social media chatter around the Ravens and the Bills game, which was a great football game, right? I don't think there's any other way to say that. It was a great football game, and for me, it was the rare football game played in snow that didn't feel like it was made worse by the existence of the conditions. There's some things that would have happened in that game, or that happened in that game that wouldn't have otherwise. But we'll talk a little bit later about the Eagles and the Rams. That was a game that felt like it was made worse by the conditions. I didn't think that's what we had with the Ravens and the Bills. Instead, what you wound up happening was a game that looked really cool because they was out there playing in the snow. I know on Saturday afternoon, that boy, the Italian Stallion, was out here talking about the snow, and he was like, oh, everybody grows up dreaming of playing in the snow. No, they don't. What are you talking about? Ain't nobody dreaming of playing in no goddamn snow. You must be crazy. It's something I do want to point out right now, and it's very important about kind of the direction and the way that we look at football is we have to take ourselves away from an antiquated 1950s idea of what football is. Let me give you an example of what it is that I'm thinking about when I say this, okay? When you think of Christmas, you have a tendency to think about the cold. You think about snow. Ride around on sleds, going down hills, all of that stuff, all the movies, it's cold outside and all of that stuff. And that's all because the center of American life is in the time that the media really started putting out Christmas like that was New York City, right? Everything that we think of as being traditionally Christmas is centered around New York City. That's why people will take trips to come up here and see the big tree at Rockefeller Center, and they'll go to Macy's on 34th Street. They'll do all of that stuff because New York is what you think of for Christmas, and thereby the default setting for Christmas is the cold. I do Spanish lessons. My teacher is in Colombia, and guess what? I don't think she ever heard of a sled in her goddamn vida. Not one time ever has she ever thought about riding no sled, any of that stuff. Why? For what? They ain't got that down there, right? That don't mean they Christmas is any less Christmas, but that's not what Christmas means there, okay? But we need to be honest about the fact that the cultural center of football is not the North. It's not New York. It's not Pennsylvania. It's not Ohio. It ain't Wisconsin. Right? There are 3 places that, to me, culturally define football in this country in the 21st century. Atlanta, the state of Florida, and the great state of Texas. And all I'm saying is we ain't got none of that snow globe nonsense in any of those places unless something has gone horribly wrong. Okay? That stuff is not football weather. That is some bullshit, okay? It's just really, really cold. So shout out to the Ravens and to the Bills for playing a good game in that cold. They pulled that off. They did that, okay? What is really fascinating to me, though, about this game after the fact, Sean, I asked this question of you sincerely. Is there anything to talk about involving the Bills?
Honestly, the Bills played great, and the Ravens just gave it up. I know the big storyline is the turnovers, but it's funny how all the narrative is on the Ravens today in the
Yeah.
news cycle. I haven't seen anything about the Bills playing extremely well or Josh Allen, legacy this or MVP that.
No, like I have not read like the Buffalo papers, right? I subscribe to Tyler Dunn's newsletter. I haven't checked out what the Buffalo discussion is, but I know in the national discourse, it is wild. The Buffalo Bills are going to the AFC Championship, and ain't nobody really got nothing to say about them. Everything about this has to do with the Ravens, and it's in part because this isn't the first time that Josh Allen's going to the AFC Championship game. This was kind of a face-off of the two guys with the MVP, but after the all-pro voting was so heavily slanted toward Lamar, I think the assumption is Lamar is going to be the MVP, so this didn't even feel like a true extension of that. Josh Allen did not play well, right? He got those 2 touchdowns, and that, I mean, they certainly matter, but there was nothing really to talk about from his performance. I can't think of anybody on Buffalo's team that really was out there getting it done in a way that made me be like, oh, okay, like this is what it is that we need to talk about, right? No, not there. Everything is over on Baltimore, and that leads to, I mean, look, let's be honest about this. If you lose as a team, and you're the only thing that we talk about, all there really is for us to do is talk about whose fault it is, okay? And quite often when you get into a circumstance in a game like this where you're trying to figure out whose fault it is, you're going to lean on your priors, and whoever it is that you thought going in would be the person that needs to be blamed, okay? So, for this game, it was very easy that either this was going to be great Lamar Jackson or Lamar Jackson, you weren't good enough, right? Like that was where we were trending going into this game. Now, it is interesting to me that if this were, say, the Pittsburgh Steelers and this had gone this way, we would probably be more inclined to come away from this with the conversation of, I don't know, do you think the coach can get it done? Because that's where we lean. John Harbaugh, who was about to get canned in 2018 until Lamar Jackson saved his job, none of these questions about the Ravens and their inability to get over the hump ever go toward Harbaugh. We direct them all to the guy who's the reason that they get this far in the first place, right? We all do. Now, part of why we do this, and I do think there's a question to be asked of Harbaugh because this team looked tight and they have looked tight in the past. But specifically, Lamar Jackson has looked tight going into these games in the past or playing them. And what made this game interesting to me about watching him is that when it hasn't gone well for Lamar in the postseason, you knew it right away. It didn't take any time for you to walk into what the performance was. If he wasn't going to play that well, the mistakes came early. And in this game, the mistakes came early. What was the difference to me in this game for him versus the others that stack up and get to what I guess we'll call a narrative, but it's been 8 games. A lot of it is fair to say. He wasn't coming off the sideline slamming his helmet because he made a mistake. You didn't see like the angst on his face, right? You didn't see the nerves in the ways that we had seen it in the past. And in this game for the first time, he did not look like the coldest person in the stadium, right? All the questions about Lamar and postseason performance were fair to ask because he has been much better in the regular season than he had been in the postseason. And to me, that all came down to mental type of stuff. He is a dude that is so talented in the way he plays, man, a couple exceptions, obviously, but they destroy bad teams, destroy them. But then they would have problems with the Steelers, for example. Well, that after the first game they played against the Steelers, that didn't seem to be the problem, and I did it. They gave it to them last 2 games. This game, what had held him up before was not the problem. And I think that if you are a Ravens fan, that part is very important, right? You don't have a guy that is going to lock up every time that it matters. At the very least, you got one. You hope that it's one of those situations where the dude is advanced past where he was before. But that would be the part to me that would be encouraging because I actually think he played well in this game. Now, where I started this earlier, and I was talking about how I want to get away from a lot of like the argumentative nature and in part a lot of the statistical stuff that we get into talking about sports, because I think very often we wind up getting places that miss the point. In this game, the stat that you saw people point out was this whole thing about Lamar having 2 turnovers in a game. I think in 91 starts, the number is that he's had 14 in the regular season, and in 8 starts in the postseason, he's had 4 games with 2 or more turnovers. And if that ain't some database shit, tell me what isn't, right? Like, that's what you do. You go through, you see the dude had 2 turnovers, you open up the database, you sort by turnovers in the game, and then you're like, ooh, look at this nifty thing that I found. I work in stats and information, and this is what I came back with. That's the people's job in stats and information. And when you produce TV shows, you like those sort of stats. You like to have them to throw out there. So, yeah, 2 turnovers in the game. The interception, absolutely indefensible. I'm not wilding out that much about an errant snap that you then brought in and then gave it up after the bad snap. Like, I'm not using the, he had 2 turnovers without any other context of the game to be a metric about how well I think he did or did not play. I'm just not going to do that. You can choose to do that if you want, but I don't think that that's the wisest way to get the true richness of the performance. And the truth is, in that game, it is rare that you see somebody attack down the field the way Lamar was attacking down the field. It's rare that you see a quarterback whose game is running still maintain the threat of his mobility as he did, not just straight ahead, we're going to run, but both run and pass. I thought that he played well when you consider all of that, especially considering they walked it down at the end of the game to win it, and Mark Andrews just made 2 of the more... The drop... really unfortunate, right? Like, that's the Lee Evans situation. Really, really unfortunate. Bad for him. The fumble was what was so confusing. What the hell was he trying to do? Right? The goal was this way. He went 90 degrees the other way. What you do that for, Pippin? I was so confused at his whole idea, his whole notion at that point, and then he wound up giving up the booty. Don't know what was going on there. Am I going to say he's the reason they lost the game? No. Now, look, here's Lamar after the game talking about what went down with him.
First half, I had 2 costly turnovers. Me not holding the safety, me just knowing the coverage, me knowing it was a man through a BS interception. It was 7-7 at the time. I believe they scored after that. Battle back, fumble. Snap, trying to make something happen, couldn't throw it. It was like a RPO play, so I couldn't really throw the ball to likely, the offensive line was down the field. So I was trying to make something happen, tried to squeeze the ball, it slipped out my hand. Von Miller picked it up, got some yards. I think that led to points for them. So it's a team effort out there. He been busting his behind, he making plays happen out there on that field for us. Came up short. And like I've been saying all season, every time we in situations like this, turnovers play a factor. Penalties play a factor. Tonight, it's a turnover. You can't have that shit, and that's why we lost the game. Because as you can see, we moving the ball wonderfully. It's hold on to the fucking ball. I'm sorry for my language, but this shit annoying. I'm tired of this shit, man.
And what he described was not terribly dissimilar to what happened against the Chiefs last year. With Zay Flowers fumbling out the back of the end zone. Yeah, you make mistakes in those games, you're gonna lose, and they lost. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense getting so caught up in this about who's to blame. The thing I say about Lamar now is the thing that I've said before about this. It doesn't matter truly in these moments if he was the reason that they lost. The part that matters is that he wasn't the reason why they won. And there was obviously more that he could have done, and he would have been the reason why they won the game. He did not do those things. That is a fair and 100% accurate point to make. I don't understand why you hall monitor snitch motherfuckers all need to go so much farther on this, and it just, who we gonna blame today? We gonna blame Andrews, we gonna blame Lamar, we gonna blame them both. Nah, man, y'all just lost. All right? And look, what happened with Andrews is crippling. Like, both of those are crippling. Lamar with that interception, I was glad he could explain what happened, because that looked to be a terrible idea. I actually give him some credit for presence of mind and knowing that that was an RPO, so they couldn't throw the ball down the field. But then he said, squeeze the ball, lost it. Kind of thing happens when it's like 5 degrees outside or whatever it is. All those things being the case. But in the end, he was not the reason they won. I feel like it's simple to leave it at that. It's not nearly as polarizing, but it's 100% accurate in describing what went down. That's how they got there. In the end, was Josh Allen the reason the Buffalo won? No. But he wasn't the reason they lost. That's all that matters on that end. These things aren't the same for everybody in every place as it goes down. That's not how it worked. But the truth is, Lamar Jackson's about to be the 3-time MVP with only 3 postseason wins for his team as starter. I understand why people look at that and think it's a little bit funny. It was that same foolishness that people did with Jokic when they were like, he's about to have 3 MVPs, but he ain't got no title. These are things that are not connected. It doesn't go that way. But at some point, one would think / hope that Lamar would be the reason that they win one of these postseason games. I will tell you what that game actually made me think of. In 2011, we all saw LeBron James absolutely went to bed against the Dallas Mavericks, and that was after he went to bed the year before against the Celtics. And I remember I was writing a weekly column for SB Nation at the time, and there was a run where it was like, it felt like it was every week, but maybe it was every other week. Because you youngsters, if you're too young to remember this, when LeBron was with the Heat, every game mattered. Every game was a national topic of discussion. And it was a big discussion of, can LeBron hit the last shot, right? People were really, really fixated on, can he hit the last shot? They got Mario Chalmers taking last shots, all this type of stuff, right? And LeBron had game after game that season of hitting shots to give the Heat the lead at the end or give the Heat a tie. And then invariably, man, they go down on the other end, call that timeout to get the ball to half court, and somebody would hit a buzzer beater to put the game away. And all these big shots that everybody swore LeBron couldn't hit, he was hitting them, but they just didn't matter because of what happened after. Lamar Jackson led 2 cash money fourth quarter drives on the road in the cold in as tight a moment as one could expect, and dropped a perfect pass. They're not perfect. That's not correct. A good enough pass on that play to Mark Andrews on the 2-point conversion, and it got dropped and they didn't win. This isn't about, you can blame if you want. You're just that kind of person. I understand that. But like in full total application of what went down, it's very simple. Baltimore lost. All of them lost. But when you Lamar Jackson, at some point, you just got to be the reason why they win. All right, now we got all the other games. The Chiefs played a game against the Texans. My buddy Nick makes the point that the Chiefs only play 2-game seasons. He be talking about them like they do jail bids, right? And he's like, they're only they only do 2 days, right? But for them, they play in the Mahomes era, they play the AFC Championship game, and they play the Super Bowl. And he is correct. And they will play the AFC Championship game. They will play it at home. They did not look good against Houston. They looked more like the team I feel like we'd seen most of the season than the team I felt like we saw 2 of the last 3 weeks of the year. You can pick against them if you want, because once again, it's not like Buffalo looked spectacular in that game against Baltimore. But yeah, the Chiefs are going. Sean, it is. Are we looking at 7 straight years?
I believe so.
7 straight years. Like, that is what is so amazing about that is, keep this in mind. Tom Brady won Super Bowls 3 of his first 4 seasons as a starter. But that year that they didn't win the Super Bowl, they didn't even go to the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like this is the unwavering nature of what they've managed to pull off is wild, man. Is wild. The Texans, one day y'all will get past that round. And it's not just the Texans. All right, so the city of Houston has had an NFL franchise basically for every season except 97, 98, 99. 5 years. They had 5 years where they didn't have a team in between the Oilers and the Texans, okay? Warren Moon, if I am not mistaken, is the only starting quarterback to make it to the Hall of Fame, and his teams never get past the division round. I do not think that the Oilers made it past the division round after either 1978 or 1979. I can't remember one. It's been like 50 years since Houston has gotten to a conference championship game. That is bananas. They got Stroud. Maybe one day they'll make it happen, but the Chiefs just made it where it is that the Chiefs are going to make it. We had the Eagles and the Rams, and that game, I think, was absolutely affected by the weather. And I've heard people make the point that if the weather was good, the Rams would have won it. I'm not exactly sure how you know that or how you feel so certain about that. That Eagles defense is a monster, man. Like, they are terrified. And again, I cracked up laughing. They do the thing where they introduce all the players before, on each side early in the game. Sean, the first three dudes for the Eagles are from Georgia. And that's with Nakobe Dean being out.
Yeah, it's insane how regardless of how well Jalen Hurts plays, it's like, well, they still got Jalen Carter sacking everyone every play. It's like, who really cares?
Yo, man, and I love the Eagles' philosophy on drafting. Very often, it's like me when it's cold, man. I got a store I go to, they got all the thermals. You know what I'm saying? If it's cold, that's just where I go. The Eagles are like, it's defense? Let's go shopping in Athens. They always have good stuff down there.
And I saw a tweet about, I can't believe he fell to 9. I can't believe. I'm like, yeah, we all know why he fell, but I know, but even still, Jalen Carter at 9 is like a high pick. Like it's for a D tackle like that. That's like it's a bit of a reach and a good gamble at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it was what happens when the best player in the draft has an incident of street racing and somebody dies. Right, and it was one of those things. That dude is unreal. That whole defense is unreal. Their quarterback is a limiting factor. And look, I get this, and Eagles fans have gotten mad at me about this. If you keep winning with him, cool, right? I said before, every team that Jalen Hurts has been on has really ultimately been limited by his passing. And you could say the Super Bowl year, that wasn't the case. I think that's a fair point for you to make. Okay? Do you think that he is passing as well this year as he did in the Super Bowl year? So even if not every team he has been on has been limited by his passing, this team is limited by his passing. I see the internet meme going around from Philly people. How is it that Josh Allen can throw for 150 yards, or was it 160? No, 127. I'm sorry. 127 yards, and nobody says how he's a running back, but Jalen Hurts has his game, and people say he's a running back. First of all, Jalen Hurts is not a running back. I will say that, but the reason that we say that about one person and not the other is very simple. One of them is Josh Allen, and the other one is Jalen Hurts. You ain't never seen they movies? Because I have, and that's why we asked the question about the one dude, right? Is he a limiting factor? Absolutely. Can the Eagles win in spite of that limitation? We'll see. Because I'm going to be honest with you. If Jalen Hurts keeps playing the way that he is playing, can't nobody be madder about this than Tommy Frazier. Tommy Frazier. Sean, you know who Tommy Frazier is?
I don't.
Tommy Frazier played quarterback for Nebraska in the mid-'90s. Tommy Frazier, up to that point, was probably the best college quarterback I had ever seen. But they was running the old Nebraska, man. They was just out there running the option.
Yep.
Throwing the ball only on occasion. Tommy Frazier out there looking at Jalen Hurts like, damn, how could y'all not see the vision? I was right here. Wasn't nobody ever better at playing like that than your boy Tommy Frazier. You know what I'm saying?
And I think to that point, I think the difference with this season with the Eagles is that Saquon Barkley's a cheat code. And, it's like, can you rely on him in these situations versus last year or the year before?
Yo, man, let me tell you something. I have made this point for a while and people don't get it. I was talking to Mina Kimes about this. Me and Mina are into football for slightly different reasons. But I still contend there is nothing, and I mean nothing, more fun to watch than a big old, fast, excellent running back being excellent. There's nothing to me in the football experience that tops watching that. And so she was talking about, how great it could be to watch somebody like truly execute in the pocket. Hey, man, that's the symphony right there. That's the orchestra right there. Take me down to the juke joint. You know what I'm saying? Take me where they dropping it. That's what I'm talking about. Watching that dude in the snow. Did you see when he was in the huddle, he told Jalen Hurts, watch this?
Yeah, it's just incredible. And then he's smacking his helmet as he's running down. I'm like, this is the type of running back energy we need again in this league.
Yo, but you got to let the running back be the running back that does that. Like, running back, to me, a lot of watching running back is a lot like watching basketball in this sense. Bill Walton, rest in peace, once said something once on a night when he was on a roll broadcasting. And what he said about basketball was that it was overcoached and undertaught, which I thought was one of the more profound things I've heard anybody say. It's something that stuck with me when thinking about anything. And I'm not saying that football is undertaught. I'm not even saying it's overcoached. But what I am saying is I was watching a video the other night of Rod Strickland, and nobody seems in this day and age to play basketball with that sort of flair, because that flair, you come up with that playing on your own. You come up with that playing on concrete. You know what I mean? Like, that is where you get like that kind of artistic kind of feel to basketball is from there. Coaching is going to teach you how to make everything very, very efficient and very normalized, and to make sure that you don't make, like, no wasted movement, basically, is what coaching is going to wind up giving you. And so Kyrie Irving is, who, by the way, Rod Strickland is his godfather. Like, Kyrie Irving is an anomaly in the sense that he still has like that New York City point guard sort of game that has that movement to it, right? Watching running backs reminds me of that also, right? Like, so many of them in the systems became one-cut stuff, right? Just go straight ahead, get to the hole, make it happen right quick. But very few feel special when you watch them play, even the ones that are excellent. Saquon Barkley, when you watch him, feels special. Like, the guys I tell you who feel special, Jahmyr Gibbs, somehow, just being so fast, gets in that space where he feels special. But Bijan Robinson has a game where you watch him feel special. Derrick Henry, obviously, is a dude that's got a game that when you watch him play, it feels special. Saquon feels, and I'm not saying he's the same, but the size-speed ratio, it's in a Bo Jackson kind of place. And the way the Eagles move furniture, because that's what's happening. They got that big boy that used to play for the Jets. And by the way, man, somebody take that boy to Clinique count. I was looking at the intros for him, and I'm like, damn, ain't no woman got your skin right. Okay, whatever. But if Becton is playing guard, what? Like, Lane Johnson ain't even the biggest dude on the team? And I've hung out with Lane Johnson. Boy, that's a big dude. But the way they move in furniture, watching Saquon Barkley be a big old school running back was exhilarating. And they are probably going to need him to do it, because Jalen Hurts ain't that guy, okay? Now, of course, I say this and get ready for him to throw for 400 yards against the Commandos, who decided to kill the dream of America, to stop the heartbeat of the Motor City, and come up there with a good victory. Yay. Jane Daniels, way to go. Greatest ranking quarterback of all time. Good, yeah, I love it. Everybody likes that.
Oh, you didn't want to talk about it, Bo? Did you want to go to ads?
Let me tell you how I realized that I have truly become a Lions fan, right? That this is not some sort of shtick that I'm doing for the radio, right? When I really realized it, I now have passionate opinions about this Ben Johnson guy. And I'm going to tell you right now, do not hire that man to be your head coach. I see that going as a disaster. I would love to have him back as the offensive coordinator after we sat him down and had a chat with him. But look, we've given him a lot of credit for those cool little trick plays. Y'all are down by 10. I think it was the fourth quarter. And you call a pass. But it's not for your quarterback to throw the pass. It's for your receiver to throw the pass. Not just any receiver. The receiver that has shown us time and time again that in a league with George Pickens, it is he who has the worst judgment in the NFL. It is the one who tried to do a goddamn Pretty Ricky routine after he scored the touchdown on the reverse, and they had to get him to stop humping the ground because the third one was coming and it was going to be a penalty. And what happened? What happened when you decided to have him throw the ball? He threw an interception. Hold on. I ain't finished. He threw an interception off of his back foot. You entrusted a receiver who would dare throw an interception off his back foot with your season on the line. What kind of big brain bullshit was that? I was hot, Sean. I was hot. Like, I didn't realize I had come this far. The Lions had been winning so many games, I didn't really have a chance to get my emotions truly tested. I was furious.
You could point to the countless turnovers, the 4 interceptions, the fumble, and all that, but that play was like the one where I was like, what are they doing? You still somehow clawed your way back. You still stayed in the game somehow. And then it's that play that is like the nail in the coffin. And it's just a poorly,
They gotta ask ushers to come in and play defensive back. Because the dude got his arm broke off. And right at the beginning of the game, right? The dudes keep on dropping like flies. All this stuff keeps on happening. The other thing about Big Brain Ben, and I say this across the NFL, you get down 2 scores, I understand the feeling of impatience, we got to get something done. But the way them boys is moving furniture and the way that Gibbs is running, averaging like 10 yards a run, you ain't got, give him the ball, man. Just you, especially on a day where Goff ain't got it. And where I guess you recognize early that you need to stop giving them possessions because, Washington was playing excellently. But you need to stop giving them possessions, but you can't slow down the number of possessions because you're behind. Okay, I get that. Like, I see that. But Big Brain Ben, I really think that he ultimately did his team a bit of a disservice. I'd also like to point this out, Sean, I believe we talked about this on this show, the thing I brought up with Dominique Foxworth, that you may improve without necessarily changing. And Rams fans let me know that is what was going on with Jared Goff, that perhaps there was improvement, but there was not changing. Although he may have been cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs after he took that hit on that 1 interception.
Yeah, that block, that I remember, someone blocked him so bad, and I was like, how is he going to come back from this? And he, bounced right up.
And, I was riding high because after that, they brought Teddy Bridgewater, supposed to be driving the number 35 school bus right now. No, he showed up and they scored a touchdown on the drive. I was like, hell yeah. That's why I was like, man, we ain't got nothing to worry about, man. It's still the Commandos. You know what I'm saying? We about to get this. And nah.
That Teddy scenario was hilarious because I tweeted this. I think the reason they scored because even the defense was like, is that Teddy? They're like, what's he doing in this game?
Is this allowed? Right? They thought Teddy was on the coaching staff. They didn't know he was allowed to do that. Because trust me, let me let you know right now, if they was allowed to put coaches in the game, and you think Dan Campbell wouldn't be there on the goal line page as the third tight end, you've been hitting the pipe. He would be the first person to get in there on the field under those circumstances. But yeah, let me tell you this though, and this is actually something important. And as I like to get into this and think about it more in terms of how the game make you feel and all of that stuff. The Lions went 14-3 this year, right? Or was it 15-2? I think it was 15-2. It doesn't really matter what it was. I really had people out here trying to tell me that I brought the Falcons' energy to the Lions, and that's why they lost. As if we are not talking about the Lions. Are you kidding me? Falcons' energy might get them to the Super Bowl. Ain't that right, Sean? Ain't that right?
Yeah, it's, the Lions still made it this way, and look at the Falcons where they are and what their season looked like,
But the Falcons been to Super Bowls. Falcons done got stuff done. The Lions still trying to get to that level of heartbreak. But anyway, I really enjoyed having a team to enjoy. I hadn't done that for a while, and part of doing this job is it doesn't you do this for a living, man. You got to level yourself. And so I am fairly level about this. But I've really, really enjoyed watching this team and having a team to watch football. And the truth is, this window might be closed. Like, they got a lot of good dudes. They got a lot of things going. Dan Campbell's been really good. They're probably going to have to replace both of their coordinators. You never know. They've been to the championship. I mean, there was the NFC championship game last year. This year, they had the best record. NFL working 2-year blocks, baby. This might be it, right? So when they lose, hey, man, they lose. Only one team going to win. Only one team going to win. And I am enjoying the ride. I have had a good time with the homies with the Honolulu Blue. And we're going to keep this thing going, right? You know? Now, look, if it turns out to be a worse idea than you might think it is, I mean, I'm good to reevaluate. But for right now, #OnePride, baby, go Lions. It was truly a great and, like, really fun season. But be careful about Big Brain Ben. I'm just telling you. Just be careful. The NBA is in full swing and the NFL playoffs have begun, which means you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite teams only on Prize Picks. You can make a Prize Picks lineup between the NFL and the NBA in as little as 60 seconds. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. But rather than hearing it from me, let's hear from an expert picker. Sean, how them picks been going?
You know, I think I'm only an expert picker because I pick so much, but, with the NBA and NFL heating up, it's hard not to keep picking. And with Prize Picks, I can make picks between both leagues. And with the flex play, I can still cash out if my lineup isn't perfect. And as always, make sure you stick around for the end of each show to hear my upcoming picks. And if you know me, you know I'm always picking more.
So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Peloton has what you need to keep you on track to your goals no matter what season of life you're in. Peloton helped me recover from my injury, and now I'm back in the gym using all the great stuff Peloton has to offer. Peloton has all sorts of classes depending on how hard you want to train. If you want to take it easy some days, you can take a lighter cycling or cardio class to help you with your recovery. They have programs to keep you on track, from strength training programs you can use at the gym to meditation and yoga for the postgame. Plus, you can challenge yourself anywhere with Peloton's all-access membership. You can work out where you need to, like at home, on your bike, tread and row, or take your favorite classes on the go and at the gym with the app. The app is super convenient, and I genuinely use it every week. And for me, I can really speak to Peloton's wide range of stretching and recovery classes, which are perfect to get my body moving at 100%. So make sure you download the Peloton app. Find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sean, it's 2025, which means everyone attempts to start their New Year's resolutions. Sean, you have any resolutions?
Well, for me, Bo, I never usually have a resolution because I know it's hard to keep it going past February. And in 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's a part of your story that you've been wanting to revise. But life isn't about resolutions that fade by February. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Think of your therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and create the meaningful story you deserve to live.
If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/Bomani today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bomani.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
All right, Bo, here's the first one.
Hey, this is Aki Ito from Business Insider. My latest story is about all the headlines we've been seeing of companies dragging their workers back into the office 5 days a week. The most recent examples are JP Morgan and Amazon, and I think it's led to a lot of commentary that the work from home dream is now officially dead. But when you take a look at the best available data on this, the prevalence of working from home hasn't actually changed very much over the last 2 years. It's been pretty stable within this range of 27 to 30% across the entire economy. Now, this suggests to me that we've probably already reached a new normal of work, this norm of hybrid work that most CEOs are actually okay with. By the way, back in 2019, that share was at 5%. So where we're at right now is a 6-fold increase since before the pandemic. So in my mind, there's no question that the work from home revolution, even with all the RTO news of late, is still very much alive.
So, Sean, I think this is interesting because I think you kind of exist in a hybridish space on this.
For sure.
I like strictly work from home. Like this is the only job that I do full time. I do it here. And I've been podcasting from home now, I guess, for 5 years. But when I did the HBO show, like, I enjoy being in the office. Now, granted, again, I work a different kind of job than most people do. Like, I really enjoyed going to the office at ESPN. There's no telling. Magic Johnson might pull up, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. He might pull up, right? Like there's no telling who could be there. I really and I wasn't there 8-9 hours, but I liked going to the office. What I don't like is having to get there. That is what I learned in the course of the pandemic, is that it's not the office for me, it's the commute. I would love to see, especially during winter, I would love to see a few more people every couple of days. That's me. A lot of y'all just don't like people. Like, I get that. And a lot of your jobs, I have to remember all the time, I truly love my job. You know what I'm saying? Like, the idea of it or whatever. So I don't want to project too much onto other people, but I do wonder how many people kind of share some of that. The time that you lose in the commute, the ability to better use the time where you're not doing anything while you're at home, like you can turn that into something else. The ability to wash clothes or sweep the floor on a Tuesday afternoon, like those sorts of things. Or whether it changes just how many hours you actually have to be there. But I do find myself personally, 100% work from home. Nah, that's not the life that I would prefer personally.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. I think the issue has become, for me even personally, is like, the benefits and the pros of being in an office will never outweigh the negative of a commute and the cons I have of a long commute. And it's unfortunately, like, I live on the other side of town. It takes a bit for me to get in here, but I do enjoy coming in here. But the issue then, it becomes like, if I don't leave now, if I don't leave in the next hour, I'm going to be stuck in traffic for another hour versus like a 30-minute ride back. So there's this like kind of perfect balance you need where you want to get the benefits of being in an office, but you don't want to deal with the kind of distraught of sitting in a commute. Regardless if it's New York or LA, wherever you are, commute sucks for everyone.
Yeah, look, brother, there's the sitting in the commute. Then it's the hiking in the winter, boy.
Yeah, that's different.
That was the New York element that, see, I didn't realize this when I first moved here, but you got to be careful when you first move here, asking people questions, because your brain adapts to what the situation is. You know, this is to me now, like when people talk about, I can't imagine going to a grocery store without a car. I'm like, oh, you just walk a couple blocks, right? Like that does sound like crazy talk when you don't live here, but there are all kinds of things like that where it's just like, no, this is just the trade of you make it. So when I worked at ESPN, they were like, oh, it's off the 2. It's right off of the 2. And it is right off of the 2. The 2 is the closest train to the studio, but it's a half mile or so hump to make that happen. Now, of course, to me now, that doesn't seem like the longest distance. But man, that first winter, good gracious.
I mean, I remember when I was working at ESPN, it was my first job. I wasn't living in the city yet, and so I was commuting from Jersey, Port Authority bus, and we were working the night shift. So like, my hours were 3 to midnight essentially, and I take the last bus out of Port Authority, and it was just like people say like it builds character, this and that, but like It was just pure misery, winter or like the humid heat. It's just awful. There were times where I'd have to be stuck in Times Square because it snowed and the buses wouldn't run. And so like, yeah, I don't wish that upon anyone. And it's just tough now, you know, it's hard to get the best of both worlds.
The worst thing about winter, and I understand some of you guys don't live in New York, but we just put you up all game, right? You can imagine this. Here's the worst thing about the winter is that subway traffic has decreased now post-pandemic, so this doesn't happen nearly as much, like unless another train is down or whatever. But rush hour is rush hour no matter what. And so rather than having a bunch of cars on the freeway, on the roads, which you also do, just to be clear, but the subway, you just got a lot of people on certain trains, okay? And so that's kind of all the way through the year, and space becomes at a premium, but it's especially at a premium in the winter because since it's cold outside, people got to wear coats. And one coat doesn't change the dynamic, but the whole train got a coat on. Yeah. So now we ain't even got enough space, and you just get on and you try to, sometimes you want to reach up to hold on to the pole right there. And when you do that, you just got people leaning up in your armpits and all of that. Or sometimes you just leave your arms down and you won't fall down because we all packed in so tight. And I understand people don't want to do that no more.
Not only that is it's freezing getting to the subway and then you're bundled up and then you get in and it's hot and then there's no room to take your shit off. And so you're sweating and then you go back out and then your sweat turns cold and you're like, okay, now I'm going to get the flu or some shit. And it's like, you just can't win.
Somebody in there is musty. Somebody, or worse than musty. This is what nobody talks about. Worse than musty. Somebody needs to wash their hair. And when you're my height, that becomes a much more acute concern. You musty, I'm above the fray. You need to wash your hair. It be right here. And I'm looking down like, what is that smell? And I can't go nowhere because it's packed on this train.
Yeah, you got the different level of altitude than me of smells.
Yeah. No, man, no. It's a lot of things. Anyway, this ties into something I've said, and then we'll move on about New York City. If you want to live here, it is not enough that you like it. It is not enough that you really like it. You have got to love it because those are the trades. All right, what's next?
Hi, this is Peter Kafka. I'm the chief correspondent at Business Insider, and today I want to hold a funeral for Venue. You probably have never heard of Venue because Venue never launched. It was a sports streaming service put together by Disney, Fox, and Warner's, and it was going to sell you a lot of sports, but crucially not all sports, for $43 a month. It was supposed to launch last fall, then there was an antitrust suit that delayed it. Earlier this month, Disney and the rest of the companies settled the suit, and then 4 days later, they said they weren't going to launch Venue at all. Never mind, just kidding. What they've told me is they figured they were going to be fighting suits for maybe forever, and it wasn't worth it. If you like watching sports, what does all this mean for you? Probably not very much. There was a lot of skepticism about Venue because who wants to pay $43 a month for a sports streamer that won't have all the NFL games? But if you do want a package like that, you're going to be able to get one pretty soon. DirecTV just announced something like that. Disney and Fox are going to do another one down the line. Later this fall, Disney is going to launch a standalone version of ESPN. So if you only want ESPN, you could do that too. The really big question for all of us is how many sports fans are out there willing to pay a lot to watch all the sports? Because right now, those fans are the ones keeping pay TV alive. If you want to watch everything, you get a big bundle of channels from Comcast or Spectrum or YouTube TV. But the number of people doing that goes down every quarter, year after year after year. And if we get to a world where lots of people decide to pay for sports-only TV packages or just not pay at all, then everything else in pay TV falls apart pretty darn quick.
Yo, so that right there raises an interesting question. And with sports, I guess, is a great way to point this out. But, like, how much money is everybody making off of FOMO?
Totally.
And this is what I mean when I say that. And I don't know, I don't have a great handle. I saw somebody in one of these chats said something about I talk all the time about how rich I am. And no. That's not what I'm doing. But I do have to be honest about the times that I recognize that the way I live can leave me out of touch with some of the true answers to this, right? Like Sean, for example, when I said that Baker Mayfield was like a $40 eighth, all kinds of people was hitting me trying to say that I have no idea how much nothing costs no more, right? They're like, oh, 40. And look, I don't know where y'all live, right? I live in New York City. As a good friend who listened to this show says, $40 eighth ain't gas. Yeah. And that was the point that we was making about Baker Mayfield. He ain't gas. But anyway, I can get some stuff wrong, right? Like, I recognize this. So for me, I have every channel and I have just about every streaming service. And the reason is, for this stuff I do or whatever, there's no telling when I might need something and I can write it off because of the nature of the job, all of those things. I have all the stuff, right? That is a professionalized version of the FOMO that I think hits people, is that if you go online and like, so for me, it really is like this. I don't do this that often, but if I go online and everybody's talking about something, or there's some sports doc that comes out that's a big deal or whatever, then I need to be able to go and watch it. And thereby I burn a lot of money on streaming services that I don't use. Like, I watched the Homie Roy special on Hulu yesterday. Very, very good.
Really good.
You check it out. I have no idea the last time I pulled up Hulu. You know, and it may have been like 2-3 months ago, but that's still my point, right? Like, I'm paying money for this. And so the idea of this sports stuff is, are you going to be able to convince people that they need to be able to watch every game? Because that is what cable at its height, ultimately, like, right before it fell, that is what it afforded all of us, is that you could throw a couple extra dollars around and you could watch every single game. How important is that really? Because the thing is, I don't need to be able to watch every single game. I need to be able to watch every single game that I want to watch. And there's no telling what game is going to be one that I want to watch. But the day I want to watch it, I need to have that, right? It's like I'm renting apartments to stay in them twice a year.
Yeah, it's like I'll never need Pac-12 network or whatever it was back in the day. But then there'll be a late night game and everyone's like, you got to tune into this. They're in 3 overtimes.
Right.
It's been really interesting to have discussions with my wife who's not a sports fan. And I have to tell her, like, I'm sorry, this is like appointment viewing for my job. Like, I need to stay in the know. But not only that, and the difference of streaming versus cable, and why I kept cable for so long, is the streaming delay is a legitimate issue to keep up with Twitter and the timeline. And cable at times was 2 minutes ahead, a minute ahead. And so, like, there's something working in the industry, especially if your job requires social media and sports, to be ahead and to be on top of it.
Yeah, cable is becoming like it's a premium product. Like, I have cable because cable remains a superior product, but it's become something, can you afford it, right? Like, do you have the bread to spend this money? But then on the flip side, people buying up all these streamers and they paying more than they did for cable. And one might argue you may be getting more new stuff, but you're getting less content in general. Look, take it from somebody whose financial future has been staked on these bundles and all of this stuff. It's crazy town, guys.
Yeah.
None of it makes any sense.
And the thought of, Peter mentioned in his article, the thought of ESPN, Fox, and all these companies combining into one streamer to some degree seems like a great idea and reminds me of what cable was, these bundle packages. But now it's like, if you don't have cable or a YouTube TV or Spectrum, it's like, okay, I need the CBS games on Paramount, the ABC games on Disney, and you just need everything. And it's like, cable had it all,
No, watch us all go back to that. I think I'll say this last thing before we go to the next topic. I think I told you this story before, that remember that 2-3 weeks when Clubhouse was cracking?
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? And so they, some people have put together a live production of the Broadway version of The Lion King. Like, they had all the different people
on Clubhouse, right?
Yeah. On Clubhouse, right? I don't know how the engineering part was what was most fascinating to me, right? Like, not have lags and all this stuff, but whatever, they did it. I didn't listen to it, but people told me it was riveting, and I realized in hearing it, you guys were sitting around watching the radio like the old folks did back in the day. You're listening to War of the Worlds with Orson Welles. You were listening to the radio like they used to listen to radio. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, we going to come up with this new thing that looks a lot like the old thing.
I mean, podcast is just radio, isn't it? You know?
Well, podcast, I can make arguments about what's different about it, right?
Sure.
But people being like, ooh, it'll be even better if we could do it live. Like, podcast presented portability and the saving, like, as the flexibility is an advantage.
Right.
And
having
now people are going to be like,
let
me tell you what's, let me tell you what's even better than that. If you got to get it right then. Hell yeah, like a live podcast. What's that like?
All right, here's our last if you hadn't heard.
Hi, I'm Nancy Walecki, and I'm an associate editor at The Atlantic. Recently, I wrote an essay titled The Place Where I Grew Up Is Gone, about the Los Angeles fires and the histories and people they've taken from us, one of which was the neighborhood where I grew up and the neighbor who made my childhood magical. After my family spent a day of driving around searching for our longtime neighbor who'd gone missing, Arthur Simino, we learned he stayed back to defend my old neighborhood and his house and died. My father and Arthur were the first to settle my neighborhood in Topanga Canyon above Malibu, back when their parcels were off a dirt road running through a hillside of sagebrush and sumac. City water and power didn't reach them, so they brought in solar panels, a well, and generators. They had kids around the same time, and soon other families moved to the area, and Arthur was our neighborhood scoutmaster. He'd take us kids to Ojai, where we'd wriggle under a chain-link fence with a no trespassing sign and soak in hot springs. He taught us to rollerblade by duct taping pillows to our behinds and just letting us have at it. He was always letting us feel like we were running wild, but keeping us safe the whole time. In that neighborhood, my childhood home, and Arthur disappeared last week. And I think the thing that's going to take us all a long time to wrap our heads around with these fires is not necessarily the number of houses or structures burned, but the number of histories like Arthur's and like my neighborhood's that LA just lost.
I just feel like we should move on to what's next, don't you?
Yeah, I just will make a point that the donation links are still at the bottom of the YouTube description. You know, people are still trying to rebuild and trying to come back. So, you know, if you can make a donation, you know, a lot of people are in need. But yeah, we can move on to voicemails.
Absolutely. I just want to say right fast, I normally don't do y'all like that, but I found myself moved in listening to that, at which point I just thought I should just
let it breathe.
I felt like I was gonna be like putting ketchup on a cake. Like, nah, I don't need nothing else, big dog. Just let it be.
All right, Bo, your prompt on Friday was a time you've witnessed someone get fired at your workplace. Our AP Ed has helped sort some of these sound bites. A lot of great submissions. So here's our first one.
Yeah, what up, Bo? Just responding to that prompt about a story I have witnessing someone get fired. This was back in 2012 during college. My friend Al got me a job in the kitchen at a Buffalo Wild Wings in our college town in Central Virginia. The same week I started there, the same week this one dude named John started too, and I was immediately not a fan. The way you talk about dudes from Dallas is exactly how I'd convey this dumbass. And it wasn't just me. He was one of those people that rubbed everyone the wrong way. He was always saying out-of-pocket shit. Yeah, just, I don't know, one of those dudes who just thinks they're funny and they say things just to say things, thinking getting a rise out of you is hilarious or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, a few months into working there, I start one shift and begin restocking the appetizers. After a couple of trips to the walk-in, I open the door and see my buddy Al holding John by the throat against the deep fryer. He was saying to his face, "If you want to tell stupid jokes all the time, tell me a joke right now." Apparently, John had said an off-color remark to one of the servers a few minutes earlier, who just so happened to be Al's girlfriend. The manager on duty quickly showed up and got Al to let go of John's neck, then took him into the office where he was promptly fired. All these years later, Al is still with his lady and has no regrets. It reminds me of your telling of KRS-One, not letting the disrespect slide. Anyway, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Sean, that story was so good, and my man wanted to make sure he got all the details right, that he wrote it down.
Yeah, he read. It was a perfect delivery.
He wrote it down. He nailed it. He may have edited it after he put it in there, but he absolutely wrote that down. That's a Waffle House kind of story right there. I think I may have told you, man, my homeboys were at the Waffle House one night, and they said they heard some dude called a woman either at the register or on the fry. I can't remember which one, but he called her a bitch, and she got on the phone and was like, yeah. Oh, yeah. They still here. And she got off the phone, and she goes, that was my husband. He weighs 300 pounds. You want me to call the ambulance now or you want me to wait? And they left.
I just love the specific detail of he held him over the frying like station, and it's like that like that's very dangerous and actually like a big threat of like, you want to tell a joke now or do you want me to burn you up?
But also part of what's dangerous there, you like telling funny jokes. Tell a funny joke now.
Yeah.
So do you want me to tell a joke or not?
Yeah.
I don't know which approach is gonna get me out of this deep fryer. Do you mean it?
Oh my God, I love it. All right, here's the next one.
Greetings, Bo. This is Luke in Washington calling about the time I saw someone get fired at work. I actually have two stories, but I'll give you my favorite. When I was in college, there was a gentleman who I worked with at Target, and this guy was always happy on the job, no matter what. Always smiling, always happy, a little weird, always happy though. But his one caveat in working the back room was that he always worked in electronics. I thought it was a little weird that he had such a need to work in a specific section, but I was like, whatever. So, over time, the gentleman is continuing to work in electronics, loves to be around iPods and different Apple gear, and I come into work one day and he's working in the back, feeling happy and extra snappy, until you probably guessed where I'm going with this. About 4 or 5 police officers come in and they put the cuffs on this young man. This young man had been stealing Apple products for months. Just every day, sneak one out, put it in his bag, happy and snappy. Every day, steal one out, happy and snappy. So they have been watching this man for months. He had no idea that the police were coming to take him away. That's exactly what he did. Fired on his way out, of course, as he was put into a police car, still smiling, which makes me think maybe he got away with a little more than they knew. But that's one of my stories, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.
Sean, I want to make a couple of points. Number one, these have gone well beyond the tales of dismissal that I was expecting. They have each of them has actually probably fallen more squarely under a much more acute category.
Yeah, the stories are very specific and brings a lot more, I think, color than we expected.
Yes. I would also like to make the point that I've always thought it was wildly unfair that they don't just say something the first time they catch you, that they let you run it all the way up to a felony. Nah, man, if stealing's so important, then go ahead and shut it down right now, right? You act like you taking down a dope ring and you got to stay inside so you can roll it all the way up to the kingpin. Man, he's just stealing iPods. You could have nipped this in the first iPod bud.
Yeah, and they got cameras and everything. You do inventory, so you know something's being missing. I do love the bit about how he was always so smiley the whole time, and I was like, this guy's just high on the job. You know, like that's the only other explanation.
Well, my question though is, in this day and age, I don't know exactly when this happened, right? But in this day and age, I can't imagine you think you about to get away with stealing from your job. It seems like they got a problem with this shoplifting thing, yeah. But you think you about to steal and come back?
Especially like if you're electronics, where all that stuff now is all guarded up and put under a plastic wall. Like it seems just a risk too great to do, you know?
One would think.
All right, here's our last one. I think it's my favorite.
Hey guys, it's Mark Fowler out of Houston. Public school teacher here. Although I used to teach and live in Harlem, post-pandemic I ended up moving back to Texas, where, of course, taking a big cut in pay, let's say close to 40% from teaching in New York to teaching in Texas, and having not that much of a, they say the price of living down here is cheap. That ain't true when you factor in these cars. So of course, being an underpaid school teacher, I had to get a job waiting tables again. It'd been a minute, so I'm getting back into it. And I'm working at a, higher up establishment, real nice little hotel bar, steakhouse kind of deal. And one of the best bartenders we got, my man Ro. Man, this guy was good. Everybody loved Ro. Turns out everyone loved Ro because, he was quick to give a free drink here and there. He'd take care of all the people, including, unfortunately, himself, where one night Ro was, doing his thing, making sure all the people were having a good time. But he was tipping back several shots to the point where the manager calls him over and tells Ro, hey, man, I see what you're doing. No big deal. But, hey, I need you to stop. We need to finish up. We need to work. We need to get this done. You can't be drinking on the clock like this. And so Ro looks right at him in the face. He pours out, like a double shot of tequila, looks the manager right in the eyes, clicks that shot back and goes, guess it's my last night. Walks out. I'm thinking, man, that's the wildest. I ain't never seen someone so confidently quit a job. So, of course, watching somebody get fired, here's the part. Next day, Ro got so hammered, he forgot he quit and shows up at the job, opening up the bar like it's just a regular day. And they walk over and they got to pull him up, and then they come upstairs. He still has no clue. And then he had to do the walk of shame, getting fired. It was like fumbling the ball at the goal line. Oh, man. Y'all doing great work. Keep it up. Hope Ro's doing good. I'm sure he is.
So, Sean, I was thinking to myself, I think he misunderstood the assignment.
Yeah.
And then, as a good teacher would, he said, no, sir, now to the assignment. He said he showed up the next day like nothing ever happened.
And for him, nothing even happened. If you're that blackout drunk on the job, you walk it in like nothing happened. That's incredible.
How did he get home? Like, Houston ain't got no subway, homie. Like, how did he look that? When he started talking about not having no money, I ain't gonna lie. I was like, say, bruh, no disrespect, but like, you gotta bring it down to vibes. And then it all talk
Turned
about
around.
landing the plane, right? Like, as a few things happened, but he landed the plane. That was excellent.
I think he might be a good teacher, given the way he told that story.
I see the vision. I mean, at the very least, he might be a really good bartender.
Yeah.
Rose said, I guess you're going to fire me. And he probably showed up with a headache. He's probably struggling, but making it happen.
Good for him,
Oh, Sean, you got prize picks for the people.
Yeah, we do. We got a big college football national championship tonight. Thanks to Prize Picks, I got a really nice bonus on Will Howard, Ohio State's quarterback, 0.5 passing yards. I will certainly take more there. Jeremiah Smith, 79.5 receiving yards. I'll take more. Riley Leonard, 0.5 pass touchdowns. I'll take more there. And Jeremiah Love, 0.5 rush reception touchdowns. I'll take more there because that dude can run the damn ball.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. That's Sean Yu. He handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Also, thanks to our If You Haven't Heard contributors. Thanks to Peter Kafka of Insider. Check out his story about why ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery killed their sports streaming platform. Thanks to Aki Ito of Insider. Check out the story on Remote Work is Here to Stay at Insider.com. And thanks to Nancy Walecki at The Atlantic. Check out her story about the fires in Los Angeles at theatlantic.com. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And I'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.